Joining us today, I am Alonso Garcia. I'm the Senior Program Manager here at the Foundation for California Community Colleges, overseeing the delivery of services on behalf of the California Community Colleges. We're also joined by two of my colleagues, Julie Mitchell, who's the Managing Attorney for the Central American Resource Center, or CARECEN, of the LA area. And we're also joined by Alfonso Maldonado Silva, who's a staff attorney at the University of California Immigrant Legal Services Center. So you'll be hearing from all three of us today. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. So I just want to provide a little bit of overview of what is the Higher Education Immigration Legal Services Project and how it came to be. So in 2018, the state of California has appropriated and made some investments into our immigrant students at all three systems of higher education: the community colleges, the Cal States, and the UCs. And the purpose of that is to really help immigrant students and staff and faculty, dual enrolled, non-credit course students, and our adult education learners that are accessing our community colleges understand their potential immigration benefits or remedies in order to see what they're available, and to also receive some guidance from qualified and reputable legal service providers. We hope that by participating in this project, you'll have an increase in obtaining your immigration relief options through conversations. And you'll learn a little bit about what a consultation looks like, types of questions that they'll ask a little bit later on in this presentation. Information is power. And so we want to make sure that our students and staff across all three systems of higher education are informed of how to navigate the ever-changing landscape of immigration laws and policies to maximize the potential of receiving immigration benefits. And all three systems are also able to provide students, staff, and faculty with these free consultations, including education and outreach services on each and every one of your campuses. And you'll learn a little bit about what that looks like a little bit later on in the presentation. Some of the services that are covered, although non-exhaustive, and our two panelists will go into a little bit more details onto what these services look like. But generally, we provide some immigration relief screenings, meaning what is going through some questions and seeing if there is a form of immigration relief, whether that be a naturalization, legal permanent residency, or some type of visa, or just generally want to come in and ask questions. We're also able to support those that are documented, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And we're also able to provide financial support with the filing of their fees through the community colleges, as well as our two other systems, the Cal States and the UCs, have their own versions of financial relief options. And Julie and Alfonso will cover those later on. We're also able to support family-based petitions, naturalization, and citizenship. And the great state of California has also provided some support with filing fees for naturalization and citizenship that our students at the Cal States and at the community colleges can also take advantage of. And then we can do some screenings for special immigrant juvenile status, T visas, U visas, and different types of other visas, as well as VAWAs. And then, in terms of education and outreach, we can do presentations such as Know Your Rights, informational workshops on what's changing with DACA, or any rapid responses based on current court cases. And then they're also able to support you with some representation in court. And again, our panelists will talk a little bit about what that looks like. So, I'm a big fan of this project and this work, and just kind of want to highlight a little bit of why you should engage in this with our dedicated legal team, because it is all free of charge. All of the consultations, the attorney time, are all 100% covered, regardless of when your affiliation ends with our systems of higher education, meaning that if you graduate, when your case has not come to a full resolution, our attorneys are committed to continuing to support you free of charge. And then the only thing that you will be responsible for would be to pay for those filing fees, with the caveat that DACA and naturalization application fees are currently covered. And then, we have a dedicated team at every one of the 116 California community colleges, the 23 Cal States, and then Alfonso will talk a little bit about what that services look like at the UC system. And for our colleagues and students at the CSU, we're also able to provide some immediate family support, and as well as our alumni that have been outside of or have graduated and are within the past 2 years are also eligible to continue to receive services. And then we also provide more of a holistic support. So if you need additional support and resources with how to access, for example, the California Dream Act, or how to fill out a AB 540 affidavit, they're able to connect you with individuals at their respective institutions to get you the support that you need in order to meet your career and educational goals. And I want to highlight that at the California community colleges and the California state universities, these are some of the immigration legal service providers that support the work. So for the community colleges, we have 10 organizations that are supporting the work at all 115 brick and mortar colleges. And then so we have some great overlap with the Cal States, where 4 of these 10 organizations are also supporting our students and staff at the California state universities. And then Alfonso will dive a little bit deeper into the UC system and their respective immigration legal services. But all of these organizations are highly reputable. They go through an intensive vetting process through the California Department of Social Services and their immigration integration unit in order to be able to qualify to provide services and receive the funding in order to meet with all of you. And so, how do you access services? So for our students at the California State University system, if you go to the finderally.com/CSU, you'll be directed to the CSU legal services page. And then you'll go to your specific region. You'll click on the provider that is supporting that institution. And then you'll sign up for an appointment virtually. And if you scan the QR code on the bottom right of my screen, that'll take you directly to that legal services page. And then after you have scheduled your appointment, they will follow up with you in more detail about meeting locations and what to bring. And you'll hear a little bit about that from Julie and Alfonso. For those that are joining us from the California community colleges, we have you can go to finderally.com, and this website allows students, faculty, staff, dual enrolled and non-credit course students enrolled at our 116 colleges access a free immigration legal service provider. And all you have to do is either enter your zip code and or one of the colleges that you're attending, and you will be connected to the legal service provider supporting your college. And then you'll fill out the form, and in under a minute, you should have a confirmation of an available appointment. And then double check those spam folders for the confirmation emails. So sometimes, depending on the email service that you use, it could be triggered as spam. So just double check those. And if you don't receive them, let us know, and we'll be happy to connect you with the legal service providers. And with that, I'll pass it over to Julie Mitchell from CARECEN to walk us through a little bit about how the Cal States and the CCC students can access services.
Thank you so much. I'm Julie with CARECEN. I have been here for 18 years and I absolutely love the work that I do. And I'm so excited to share with you a little bit about what the project's doing, what it's about. So I'm going to go over a little bit of like the history of the project and what it's like to get a consultation with one of our attorneys, and who are the people that are providing the services on the campuses. So I'll start with how the project came to be. And actually, before I start there, when I first started doing this work, immigration legal services wasn't really something that was funded at the level that it is now. And I think that it's really incredible and historic that right now we have three different systems that all three systems have free immigration legal services for all students across the state of California. So I think that's an incredible achievement, and it's one of the reasons that I'm so excited to be part of this project. So how did this whole project come about? I like to start with this because I think that it's kind of important to figure out where we are based on where we've been. And the story kind of officially starts in 2018, but it actually starts much earlier. A lot of us were already doing this kind of work, and then the state of California funded us to do more of this work and to do it better. So we expanded. We've been around since the 1980s, and I think that a lot of other orgs have kind of similar stories of grassroots advocacy and legal services that led to us being invited to participate in this project. And as Alonso mentioned, we're altogether 10 organizations that serve the community colleges. And then of those 10 organizations, 4 of us also serve CSUs, and then the UCs have another system. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what it looks like for CARECEN to provide legal services, but it's very similar at the other organizations, and I'm sure at the UCs as well. So how it works is we are all separate organizations, but we work with your local Dream Center, Dream Resource Center, or Undocumented Student Success Center. So we're not exactly part of the school, but we work really closely with your Dream Centers to provide services. Oh, and here's a picture of us at a recent conference, some of us from the different organizations. So what happens when you book an appointment? So Alonso kind of walked you through how to book an appointment, and I'm going to talk about what it looks like on our end when we get that little appointment announcement in our inbox. So when you book an appointment, you get a confirmation sent to your email or text, and then we also get notification that somebody's booked an appointment with us. The appointment information gets sent to our 2 intake coordinators who are pictured here, Jennifer and Oneida, and they really begin the back end work to make sure that we have all of the information that we need and you have everything that you need to be prepared for your consultation with our staff. So they're going to ask you for information. They're going to ask you for a biographic information sheet, which I'm going to show you in the next slide here. And then they'll also ask you to look through our consultation contract, which basically states that we'll be providing you with information and an analysis, and then we're not going to charge you for it. So they're going to get everything ready for you to have your consultation. And once they have those 2 documents from you with your biographic information and your consultation contract saying we're not charging you, then they'll either send you the information for your in-person appointment or send you a Zoom link and connect you to your caseworker for your hybrid consultation. And then here's a look at what our intake form looks like. It's a 1-page form, but as you can see, it is information dense. In order for us to get ready for your appointment, we ask for things like your name, your contact information, address, and then we ask for some kind of biographic information that we use for reporting purposes. And it can seem kind of like a lot of information. If you break it down, it's a lot of boxes, but few questions. But if you do feel like this is a hurdle for you to get through to get your consultation, our intake coordinators can also help you to fill out this sheet. But I know it can look daunting, but if you need help, we're happy to help with it. But this is kind of just the basic information that we need to start your initial consultation with us. So once you get your consultation, either Zoom link or information about where your in-person consultation will be, and at all the campuses we serve, you have the option of in-person or virtual. You're going to want to start preparing for your consultation. And these are kind of my recommendations for how to prepare for a consultation. Number one, plan ahead to be in a quiet and confidential space. All of our in-person meeting spaces are quiet and confidential, but if you're going to have a virtual appointment with one of our caseworkers, you want to make sure that you're in a space where you can have a consultation. So you probably want to be indoors, or if you're going to be outdoors because that's a safer space for you, make sure that you're somewhere where you feel comfortable speaking. So where people aren't going to be walking by and maybe overhearing your confidential information or your sensitive information. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in a couple slides about what are the types of questions that we ask during a consultation, which I think will give a little more context to why it helps to be in a confidential space for that consultation. I know that a lot of people get nervous when they're going to meet with a caseworker for the first time. So it could help to write down questions you have so that you make sure to ask them. But also, if you forget, it's not a big deal. You can always just follow up with your caseworker later. But if you're like me, you like to write everything down in advance. So that's what I would recommend to do if you do have a lot of questions. But it's also okay if you just show up and you don't have any questions. We will have a lot of questions for you. If you have any prior immigration cases, bring any paperwork with you that you think might be helpful. I don't have like a set list of everything to bring from past casework. I always just tell people, if you think it might be relevant, bring it and we'll look at it and see if it's relevant. There's no harm in bringing more documents. I've had people show up to my office before with like 2 bags full of documents. And I was like, okay, I bet they have everything that I need in there. So if you have something, bring it. You don't have it and you don't know how to get it, we'll help you figure out how to get whatever document or information you're missing. And then also try not to plan anything immediately following your appointment. Sometimes meeting with somebody for the first time and kind of talking about your options and your story can be like emotionally heavy for people. So like going immediately from that space to like class, or immediately from like that space to work, or whatever it is, can sometimes be a lot, and people sometimes wish that they had a little bit of space to like digest information by themselves before like moving on to the next thing. So if you can, try not to plan anything immediately following your appointment. That said, I know that students are really busy and have things all the time, and sometimes it's the only thing that works. But if you can, give yourself a little bit of space there. So who will my consultation? Actually, I forgot something from the last slide. Another thing about how to prepare is to think about who will be in your consultation. And I always say that for your first consultation, you should have the consultation completely by yourself. I oftentimes have students ask like, oh, well, can I bring like my parent, or can I bring a friend or a partner? And our recommendation is that your first consultation is just you, because we ask a lot of questions about that you may not be anticipating and that you may not be ready to share with whatever like trusted friend or family member is with you. So for confidentiality reasons, just be by yourself for that first time. And I always tell people, like, if you're nervous that you might forget information, I will wait while you go check in another room with whoever you need to talk to like remember whatever it is that I'm asking. But at least then you'll have like the space to be by yourself and answer like honestly, without fear of other people overhearing you if me or somebody else asks you something that's sensitive. So who will your consultation be with? At CARECEN, we have kind of 3 options of who you might meet with. We have licensed attorneys. So those are people who have been admitted to a state bar association and are in good standing with the state bar association. Because immigration is federal law, it might not necessarily be with somebody in the California bar. It could be from another state, usually California, but they've been admitted to some bar in the US. We also have accredited representatives through the Department of Justice, and those are non-attorneys who have been accredited by the Department of Justice to provide immigration advice and to represent people in cases. There's 2 levels of accreditation that people can get, partial and full. The main difference between partial and full is if somebody has full accreditation, that means that they can represent somebody before an immigration judge as well. But most accredited representatives have partial accreditation to be able to represent people before USCIS. That means that they can represent you in your DACA renewal, for an advanced parole application, adjustment application. It also means that the representative who's representing you, if they are an accredited rep, it means that they have already been through a vetting process to get their accreditation. And they have shown the Department of Justice that they have sufficient immigration knowledge and supervision to be able to provide legal services. Sorry, that section got a little bit long, but I think a lot of people are like unfamiliar with what an accredited representative is. So if you come across one, the main takeaway is they can represent you in your immigration matter as well. And also we have paralegals, and paralegals work under the direction of a licensed attorney. Generally, they're information gatherers. They'll help us put together cases. They are not the ones that are going to be analyzing your case and giving any legal advice or legal analysis for your case. If you meet with a paralegal to get in, for them to gather your information, they're going to take your information and talk to their attorney counterpart to be able to get a full analysis, and an attorney is always the one that's going to be providing that analysis. I thought it'd also be nice to highlight in this presentation who are the staff behind this project. So at CARECEN, our college legal services team, we're almost 30 staff, and I can tell you that the people on our team, as well as the other organizations that we work with, have incredibly dedicated staff members that truly believe in the importance of representation and legal information to immigrant students. So these are just a couple of quotations from some of the staff that work at CARECEN about why they're involved in the work. And I hope that that helps you to feel, confident and connected to the legal service providers that are behind this project. So what to expect during a consultation? So most consultations take about an hour, but they could take a little bit less or a little more. Nothing's kind of set in stone there. We spend a lot of time getting to know you and your immigration history. I always tell people that not all questions may be relevant to you, and you may be thinking like, why are they asking me about this? It's because we want to cover all our bases, especially if you're looking for like a pathway to a green card or some sort of immigration relief or protection. We're going to try to uncover every stone to see if there's anything there that could help your case. So that means that we ask a lot of questions. Some of the questions that we ask are biographic, so kind of just revisiting things on your intake, like your name, like what do you prefer to be called, what are you studying, things like that. And then we usually get into immigration history. So when did you come to the US? Who do you live with? And then we ask usually more sensitive questions as well, because a lot of forms of immigration relief are kind of humanitarian based. So they're there to provide protection to you if something's happened to you and you need protection in the US. So for example, there's a special immigrant juvenile status that is for minors under the age of 21, so up to age 20, who have been abused, neglected, or abandoned by one or both parents. So we ask everybody that we meet with who's under the age of 21, we're going to ask, who are you living with? Is it with both parents? We'll ask if you've ever been abused by a parent. We'll ask if you've ever felt neglected. So those are why some of the questions that we ask may seem kind of, why are they asking me about my parents? I came to renew my DACA. We're asking that to see if there might be some form of more permanent or stable immigration options available to you. Another thing that I can think of is we always ask people if they've been a victim of any crime, where they helped in the investigation. That would help us determine whether somebody is eligible for a U visa. We may ask if you've ever worked with a social worker, which would also kind of, in our attorney minds, make us start asking questions about a U visa to see if you might be eligible for that. So that's also why it's important that you're in a space where you can answer these questions without being nervous about who might be overhearing your conversation. And got a little off track there. So yes, all questions are meant to assist you to find a path to citizenship. And you can also ask us any questions that you have about your case. A lot of times we may be kind of like looking at all of your immigration options for you, but you may come with like really specific questions about, well, that's all important, but what's really important to me right now is that I'm able to get a permit to leave to visit my family member who's sick. So come to us with any questions that you have and let us know what your like priorities and concerns are. And then at the end of the consultation, an attorney or an accredited representative will provide you with options, advice, and next steps. It might not always happen in your initial consultation. Sometimes we see cases where, well, we haven't seen that before. We're going to have to do research on it. We'll provide you with a timeline of like how much time we're going to need to figure out what your options are, your next steps. Or maybe we'll need you to do some information gathering for us so that we can kind of have a better look at what your options are. So at the end of your consultation, you'll always know at least what the next step is, whether it's yes, you have a case, or well, we need to research, or there's more information that we need from you. This is just, Alonso already went over this a little bit, but these are the types of cases that we find when we do consultations. DACA, we do a lot of DACA renewals. Occasionally we do DACA initial applications, even though they're not currently being processed. We still do some of those. We do TPS cases. We do advanced parole for both DACA recipients and TPS holders. We do a lot of family-based petitions. Citizenship cases, I mentioned the special immigrant juvenile status. We see a lot of those cases, and it's oftentimes people who didn't come to us for that information. We figured out that they might be eligible for that because we were asking questions. And then I mentioned U visas and VAWA, which is related for survivors of abuse who have relatives with legal status. So these are just some of the cases that might come out of consultations, but this isn't exhaustive. We see other things coming out of consultations too. We're not currently doing employment-based visas, but that's something that we're looking into because those are the questions that we're getting from students right now. So we kind of figure out what your questions are and help you try to figure out your options. I think that that's all that I was going to say about this. Oh yes, actually I do have one more thing. So also sometimes in a consultation, we find that maybe somebody doesn't have an immediate path to citizenship. We also provide kind of tips for what you can do to kind of assert your rights in different circumstances. So if you're feeling like you just need a consultation to figure out if you have any immigration options, and maybe you think you probably don't, but you want to check with us, that's good too. We're also happy to provide you with information on like what your rights are in different situations and kind of like talk you through how to assert those rights. So we're able to help with a variety of things. So is my information safe with my legal service provider? The short answer is yes, but I'll give you more information than that. So attorneys and those that work with us, we're bound by confidentiality obligations to our clients. That means that we are required by law to keep your information safe and confidential. We never share your information with anyone, including Dream Center staff, unless you tell us it's okay. And our record keeping systems are completely separate from your school. So remember I mentioned earlier that we have an intake form that asks for a lot of biographic information that we use for your consultation. That gets sent directly to us, and it's never shared with anybody at your school. We don't share it with your school. We don't share it with the government. We also have very high-level case management systems as far as security is concerned. So your information is safe and confidential with us. And then finally, what happens after that first consultation? Maybe we have follow-up appointments. Some cases are big and require a lot of follow-up. Some cases are small, and maybe it only requires email follow-up. Maybe information and document gathering next. And maybe you do have a case and we're able to represent you. We would represent you through the life of your case. So for our policy is, as long as we start your case while you're a student, or if you're in the CSU category, within that alumni term of 2 years after graduation, as long as we start your case before then, we will continue your case through the life of your case. So you don't have to worry about like transferring your case or what's going to happen when I graduate or stop going to school. And then just as a final reminder, if you don't have a direct pathway to immigration relief, it is still really important to get screened because immigration laws and policies are always changing. And sometimes it's just like a little thing that changes in one law that could change your immigration options. So my kind of rule of thumb is every year come in and see us. It's a service that's provided by the state for free if you're a student, so why not take advantage of it? And information is power. So the more that you know about the case, the more that you're able to kind of direct your own options there. And with that, I will pass it on to our colleague with the UC systems, Alfonso Maldonado Silva with the UC Immigrant Legal Services.
Thank you, Julie. Welcome, everyone. My name is Alfonso Maldonado Silva. I'm the staff attorney at UC Riverside. I could not agree more with Julie when she said that this whole structure or these services that are available now were kind of almost unthinkable back a couple of years ago. I graduated from UC Riverside, and when I was a student there was not even a space where I can go to even discuss my undocumented status. I was always referred to Chicano student programs, whether it be for financial aid questions or anything that related to my immigration status. And so to now think that we have Dream Resource Centers and a structure and a legal service provider that can provide representation to you and your family free of charge is just really, really amazing. And I am incredibly proud to be part of this whole system here in California. A little bit about the UC Immigrant Legal Services Center. It operates out of UC Davis School of Law. So we are integrated within the UC, particularly in Davis Law School, but we represent everybody in the 9 out of the 10 UC campuses. The only campus that we don't represent or we don't help is UC Berkeley. And it's, I think, because they had a pre-existing agreement with an organization out in the Bay Area. But if you attend any of the other UC systems or UC campuses, our center is available and willing to represent you to provide guidance, consults, or legal services. All of our services are completely free of charge. And so we don't charge for consults or representation. And there may be situations or certain reliefs that you might be eligible for that will pay the filing fees for. Specifically, I'm talking about DACA and naturalization services. But campuses independently have their own resources and their own funds that might be able to cover other forms of applications. Unsurprisingly, our services are very similar to those that Julie mentioned, right? It's just that our structure is slightly different. We're integrated into the university system, right? So we and the SoCal campuses have attorneys stationed at each campus. So UC San Diego, UC Irvine, UCLA, UC Riverside, and UC Santa Barbara will have attorneys physically present in the campuses. Whereas NorCal campuses have either visiting attorneys that visit the campuses regularly, or you'll have virtual appointments with our attorneys that are stationed at UC Davis, our central hub. We work very closely, like Julie said, we work very closely with our DREAM resource centers, right? But not all DREAM resource centers are labeled or called the same. I've included at the very bottom the logos and the names for each DREAM resource center at every campus that we serve. And there's a website here that you can access that will directly link you to the web page for each respective DREAM resource center. So through there, you can access other services that the DREAM Resource Center offers, but also find information about your individual immigration attorney at your respective campus. So who is eligible for our services? All currently enrolled students, whether you're undergraduate or graduate students, are eligible to receive our services, but also immediate family members. We recognize that sometimes mixed status families also need this service. And so if you're a United States citizen student that has maybe an immigrant family member or an undocumented family member that might benefit from our services, you can schedule an appointment, or they can schedule an appointment with us so that we can do a screening to see if there's anything that we can help with. The family members that qualify for our services are parents, siblings, children, and spouses of enrolled students. And so unlike the CSU system, at the UC, you have to be currently enrolled to receive legal services. But if we enter into a retainer agreement, we are responsible to fulfill those terms of the agreement, despite you graduating or no longer being enrolled, right? So if we agree to represent you, say, on a adjustment of status application or a family petition, we will abide by those terms regardless of your status down the road, right? Regardless of your student status down the road. And as you can imagine, our services are very similar to those offered at CSUs or community colleges. We have a wide range of applications or relief that we represent in. Primarily, we see a lot of affirmative cases, right? Specifically, we do a lot of DACAs and advanced paroles. But we are seeing that because of the current policy, less and less students are eligible to receive DACA applications. So we're really screening and we're really encouraging individuals to come out to our centers and get screened for additional forms of relief. In limited situations, you'll notice here that there's an asterisk in removal defense. Though most of our work is in affirmative, we might be able to represent you in removal defenses as well. And so we encourage you that if you qualify for our services, please reach out to our centers and schedule an appointment with an attorney so that we can screen for whatever forms of relief might be present. And so how do you schedule an appointment with one of our attorneys? It's very, very simple. We prefer that you contact your DREAM Resource Center first or schedule an appointment through them. But you can also visit our website, right? At our website, you can quickly find the book an appointment icon at the landing page for our website, and it will direct you to a list of campuses that we serve. You just select what campus you are enrolled in, and you schedule and you click book online, right? An appointment, and it will direct you to that attorney's calendar and page where you will directly schedule an appointment with the attorney so that you can meet either in person or virtually depending on your schedule. Now, We encourage you to reach out to us through your Dream Resource Center because they really help us maximize the efficiency of our center, right? Most of the Dream Resource Centers help us triage and really understand whether it's a legal consult that you need or an additional resource that is offered by a different department on campus. It may be that you might benefit from a basic needs referral first versus a legal service intake, right? And so we work in partnership with the local Dream Resource Centers, meet regularly so that we can maximize the efficiency of our services as well as those of their department while maintaining a client and student focused approach. I don't want to repeat a lot of what Julie mentioned. She really touched every point that I had to share, but I cannot underscore the importance of getting screened, right? Even if you don't know, or even if you believe that you don't qualify for a benefit. I can think of 2 different scenarios recently that happened with students where the students didn't think that they were eligible for relief, but we identified something that we were able to help them with. Specifically right now, we're doing a lot of campaign around special immigrant juvenile status, the one that Julie mentioned, because we've realized that sometimes when students or individuals live in a single parent household or don't live with parents at all, maybe may not identify themselves as being abandoned, abused, or neglected, right? But the way that we look at cases as attorneys is we understand that sometimes these definitions have a much broader interpretation, that we can help identify those individuals that might be able to be eligible for these more permanent forms of relief, right? So when we have, for example, an individual that is interested in applying for DACA and comes out to our center just because DACA is in the headlines and they're in the news, maybe friends or family members have that DACA status and they also want to get that DACA status, it may be that we identify a more permanent form of relief that provides more stability for the student and pursue that as an alternative, right? Another one is that comes to mind is when we have recently a couple of years ago, DACA came back as an opportunity for many students, right? Initial DACA applications were being accepted and adjudicated. And so we have a very small pool of individuals that received DACA for the first time recently, and they've now come back to apply for advanced parole. The advanced parole was granted. They've traveled with advanced parole. They returned to our center after traveling with advanced parole and are now applying for adjustment of status. And now we are helping them with their adjustment of status application. So it's been really neat to see how our services have seen the lives of these cases and the benefit of our services and what they mean for the students that we represent, right? The student with DACA that started without anything, had DACA, advanced parole, and now adjusting the status is really rewarding to be part of, and now they get to share this experience with their family members as well. I think also another part that really helps at our center is that we work very closely with the other departments, right? For example, the care office on campus, mental health, travel, study abroad departments. Because we work so closely with these other departments, we can provide very holistic and client-centered representation. Anything from helping you prepare for traveling abroad to traveling domestically, right? If you are undocumented and you're interested in participating in a conference at in a different state, different part of California, and you're worried or you're concerned that your immigration status might put you at risk, we can present on those topics with the other departments and make ourselves available so that students can reach out to us and we can really talk through those issues in a confidential setting. And also know your rights presentation, right? We maintain and update our student population as often as possible. Julie mentions that immigration policy and law is ever changing, and that is absolutely true. Specifically around this whole DACA policy, right? And so we constantly get requests from students to update them about what they're hearing on the news, what their friends are sharing with them, and to really confirm whether or not what they're listening to or what they're hearing is true or not. And so we provide all of that information to our students as well. And then common recommendations for first-time consults. Everything that Julie mentioned, I agree and I second. The whole purpose of our services, I think, is to welcome you and get you in through those doors, right? Get you into our offices, whether physical or virtual offices, so that we can really have a conversation and an understanding of your current situation and see where we can get from there, right? We want to understand where you are in your immigration status, what your immigration history has been, and where it is that we can get you, hopefully, in terms of lawful status. There are a lot of times where students decide not to show up because they haven't, quote unquote, prepared for the meeting, right? Either they forgot to bring documents from back at home, or they didn't fill out a questionnaire beforehand. And I just want to reiterate that it is completely okay if you don't. We will work through it as we meet, as we get you in through the door, right? The most important part is for you to meet with one of our team members so that we can understand what situation you're currently in. And that's true for your family as well, right? We understand that sometimes a family member might be running late. They might be driving from a different city. And so if you're running late, it's okay to let us know you're running late and attend your meeting a couple of minutes later, right? Don't not come to your appointment only because you didn't gather the documents or you didn't make it in time. We understand life happens, and the purpose and the mission of our centers are to provide this service to you. And so we are very understanding in that sense. And so with that, I'm going to hand it back to Alonso so that they can close it out.
Thank you, Alfonso, and thank you, Julie, for the great insight today. I do want to make a couple of points of clarity regarding support services available to community college students. I've seen a couple of questions in the chat box regarding eligibility for extended family members. And while we can support and provide wraparound supports to the family, it really depends on the uniqueness of their case and who ultimately is going to end up with a change of or a potential change of status. So, my words of wisdom will be to connect and engage with one of the 10 organizations supporting the California community colleges that can best determine the course of action for your unique case. As we heard today, no case is exactly the same, and it'll require some finesse and some conversation between you as the client and the attorney supporting you. So we have a couple of minutes before we wrap up our conversation today, and we have a couple of questions in the chat box that I wanted to ask, specifically around like removal defense, and what does that mean, and what does that look like? And I'll pass it over to either Julie or Alfonso to kind of give us your perspective on how your respective institutions support removal defense. And I'll start with Julie and then go to Alfonso.
Yes, so we have specific funding for removal defense for CSU students, staff, faculty, immediate family, and alumni up to 2 years. So that means that we can represent those people in a deportation case. For the community college project, we don't have specific funding for that. However, most organizations have separate funding for removal defense that they could potentially use to support a community college student. The state also funds removal defense. So what I would recommend doing is, number one, if you're a CSU student, just book your appointment, figure out if we can help you with that case. Even if it's like an old case that you're not sure what happened to, you just know that you were in immigration court before, or your family was, talk to us, we'll help you figure it out. If you're a community college student, exact same advice, make an appointment with us. We can help you figure it out. We can either direct you to an organization that might have availability to represent you if we can't, or maybe another team within our organization can do it. Maybe we can find availability within our orgs. So make an appointment and we'll help you figure it out is the best advice that I could give.
Yeah, and the same goes for the UC system, right? We have funding to represent in removal defense, but sometimes it may come down to our organization's capacity. Many of the, well, not many, some removal defense cases are very intensive, right? And require a lot of resources, and some may be very urgent, right? And so when we do have the consult and we identify that there is a removal defense case, it's a variety of factors that we consider. And so we present the options available to the client, and then the client will make the decision of whether they or not they want to accept representation from our center. But also very quickly, removal defense refers to cases before immigration court, right? Or that have been in immigration court, where the government is actively or in the past has tried to remove the individual from the United States. And so not everybody has removal defense cases, but if you do, we'll identify those during the consult. And so we encourage you all to reach out to our centers if you have any questions regarding immigration court or removal defense cases.
Thank you, Alfonso. And I wish we could get to more questions, but I'm looking at our time. And so I want to thank you all for joining us today and hope you found this conversation helpful. Thank you to Alfonso and to Julie for sharing how to access services at all 3 systems of higher education here in California. And for me, and hopefully for you all, the biggest takeaway I'm getting is that, whether you have a simple question or a complex question, or don't know where to start, or have had a case in the past, or have started a case somewhere and you're unsure of what to do and how to navigate it, please schedule a conversation with one of our dedicated legal service providers and get a second opinion, start the process, or figure out just where to go. And so for our community college students, please visit finderally.com. For our Cal State students, visit finderally.com/CSU. And for our UC students, please go to bit.ly/UC legal. And all of those links will direct you to the respective organizations that are supporting your system of higher education.